The producer podcast highlights continue as we're turning our attention to the topic that has continued to take the industry by storm, AI. What does the future of our industry look like using AI? What concerns are there and what benefits are there? Those are some of the things we're going to hear about today from our season 10 guest of the show as we explore this topic. So without further ado, let's get started. First up, we have Chad Gunderson, one of the producers for The Chosen and Out of Order Studios.
My opinion on AI is, honestly, I think it's like anything else technology-wise that we've seen, right? From the move from film cameras to digital cameras, from hand-drawn animation to CG animation. Like, we've seen all these things, and I think AI is just kind of the next thing. It's kind of like the virtual walls too, like they're kind of there too, in the green screen virtual wall world of it. I personally think right now it's very much in its infancy, which is weird because artificial intelligence type stuff has been around for a very long time. Right now, not at the extent that it's advanced over the last, call it 2 or 3 years. Right. I mean, basically, I think a lot of people during COVID were really bored and holed up in their houses, only working like this right here over a computer. And I think all the AI geniuses go, we're going to take AI from this theoretical thing to reality. Again, I could be wrong. That's just my opinion on it. And so I think those that embrace it are smart. But I think those that feel threatened by it, I think you're immature to be threatened by it. No different than the funny thing is like film now, all of a sudden, now all these filmmakers are going, I want to go shoot on film again. Like, yes, we had a good, call it a decade, maybe a little bit more in this digital space. And now all of a sudden people are like, okay, that's fine. We know that, but I want to go shoot on film. I want to go do those things. And so to deny that the digital camera world didn't change filmmaking is foolishness. But to then say that it's the only way is also foolishness, right? I mean, I think there's a movie coming out now that somebody shot entirely on their iPhone, like at a high level, not just a fun little student film. But, I joke too and say, well, my phone is 4K and we didn't even shoot The Chosen on 4K for many years. Like, we were 2K and 3K and, 2.5K and some of these others just based on the camera we were using. Now obviously that camera's way bigger than that, but at the end of the day, there's the technology is there. So to not use it is foolishness. So that's my opinion on AI. I just think that, I think that it'll get rid of a lot of lower level jobs. Like, we've seen it. Like, we've done the examples of get into the chat GPT and go, hey, I'm reading an outline for a story that's X, Y, and Z. And it will spit out some stuff that you're like, that's actually pretty impressive, right? Like, give me a zombie movie set in, post-apocalyptic, blah, 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 in northern Maine, with the hero that's, 6'2" and brown hair and has a limp, right? Like, and it will spit out crap that's just, it's really, really impressive. But then again, you start seeing, like, I know a big controversy this year was like the Coca-Cola commercials with the polar bears, right? And the trucks that, like, Coca-Cola has been known for these Santa polar bear truck commercials for years. Some of it was real, some of it was CG, but definitely not AI. And this one that came out this year, it's AI, and everybody's kind of like, it lost that personal touch. And I think that's what AI will never, ever capture. It will never capture that personal touch. Like, it will never be a real actor. It may be an image of a real actor. It may be now if an actor wants to look younger, that's a cool thing, right? We saw that with the Tom Hanks movie, recently, and they just de-aged him and they did some stuff. And I think we'll continue to see that, which I think is great, because now that actor that is older can play himself and it looks better, right? Versus there were a lot of digital things that they were doing that just looked kind of creepy. Or you have to go get a different actor, which is fine. And I think there's places for that. So I think there's going to be a lot of these kind of non-essential moments that just accentuate what we're wanting to do as filmmakers. But I don't think it's going to replace writers, because, again, even those stories that I was saying how good they are, there's just something missing, right? And so, but what it might do is it helps skip you some steps to get to that place So we as producers, as you know, I consider myself a creative producer. I'm not involved in the creative side of The Chosen, but that's actually the rarity for me. I'm normally pretty involved on the creative side, but I don't want to touch The Chosen. The Chosen is awesome. And the writing team, Ryan and Tyler, and obviously Dallas, they've done a great job. They don't need my help and they can do their thing. But for me as a creative to do what I just said, to kind of go, okay, I want to tell a story, right? And I'm not a screenwriter by no means. I'm not. So I still would even take that weird story that I just gave you and say, okay, here's the essence of what I want. Now you go make it real. And so I think that will never go away. I don't think AI will replace that. I don't think they'll replace actors. I don't think they're going to do any of those things. And so there's definitely a lot of fear there because there are ways to monetize, AI. Like for example, voices now. Like there's AI programs where you and I right now talking, you could take this entire podcast and go, I want it in Spanish. And it literally will take your voice and my voice, the tone, the cadence, all of the things. And you and I will then be speaking in Spanish, not some guy that speaks Spanish coming and translating and then laying their voice on top of mine and their voice on top of yours. It is literally you and I talking, but we're talking in Spanish. So it's kind of like, okay, I get there that now all of a sudden I would have paid that person to do that dubbing session versus I don't have to do anything. So now that actor that may like the you or me might kind of go, well, you were going to pay that other guy $1,000 a day to come in and do this. And now you're basically getting it for free. How do I play into this? Right. So again, there's some things to work out in there, but I also think that most actors would prefer their own personal voice, their own tone, their own cadence to be speaking in Spanish or Portuguese or Russian or Mandarin or whatever the language is when they don't speak any of those language and go, that's my voice saying those words, but in Mandarin. That's a big deal. That's pretty cool. So I think there's a lot of things that I think people just need to embrace it and see it. So, but to know where it goes, who knows? But to not embrace it and to follow it and to track it and to kind of learn as it goes, I think people would be foolish not to do so. So
Next up, we'll hear from Steve Barnett, producer with Monarch Media.
I'm excited about AI, but I'm also frightened by it. It's weird. It's one of those tools that I actively see how it's going to reshape our business, which is very exciting, especially sitting in the chair that I sit in, where we're financing and producing.
Yes.
I don't know that I'll be as affected if I stay doing this. I don't know that I'll be as affected by it as many departments on a film and TV. I mean, they're eventually, and the guilds are hanging on, and the guilds are fighting a good fight to make sure that AI is not being used instead of their talent. The Writers Guild has been vocal about that because ChatGPT is an incredibly powerful tool.
Yes.
For that. There's a ton of AI sound software that can literally just replace sound design in films. Visual effects, you see it all day, every day on social media. The stuff that's coming out from AI in that space is truly incredible, with a sliver of the amount of time and a sliver of the cost.
Right.
But even background sounds, I've got good friends who are in loop groups and they've had a very good career doing background sound and voiceover and things like that. I don't know how long that will last. While Foley does mostly sound design, but Foley, all of that stuff is just going to be, or I think at some point will just get replaced by AI.
Yeah.
The scary part is when you start having actors, though. When you start seeing AI, and you see it now. I mean, gosh, every time I go on social media, I'm like, is this real? I'm not sure if this actually happened.
Yeah.
It's getting incredibly good, and yeah, no one really knows where this is going to go or how long it's going to take, but I just don't know how long the unions can hang on and protect their people from being replaced by AI. The hope is that the producers, mostly the studios and independent companies like ours,
Hmm.
will abide by the rules within the guild and be good partners with those guilds and say, listen, if here's like a small example, one that I actually, one that I had to recently make a decision on. You can, and I know you know this. I mean, I think most people who have any idea about AI at this point know that you can take a person's voice and kind of upload versions of their voice into AI, and then
Yeah.
the AI will learn the voice, replicate the voice, and you can manipulate the voice however you want. If you want somebody to sound scared, you want them to sound happy, you want them to sound sad, all in that voice. It's truly incredible. And when we were in the marketing of my film Valiant One, there was one moment in particular for a trailer that we were going to do, and we were going to pull audio from the film. But the audio from the film was the actor's voice was started high and went low because he's dying. So he
Hmm.
higher energy and he becomes slower and slower, and the energy gets lower and lower. For the trailer, we needed it to be the opposite.
Yeah.
We needed to build the excitement, not slow it down. So this editor came to me and he said, "Hey, hope you're not mad. I put the dude's voice in and I redid it, and it came back and it was awesome. It was so awesome." And I was like, "Dude, I'm glad you showed that to me, but we're not using that. We can't use it. Like, we'll get
Hmm.
destroyed. We'll get in trouble." And I killed it. But it really was an eye opener for me because, I've never really applied it other
Right.
than, using frankly, just chat GPT and like Mid Journey to create images for decks or whatever. But
Hmm.
to see it in action on my own film with the voice that I had lived with in the edit for 6 months, to hear that same voice manipulated in a way that was so different but incredibly effective. I was like, "Oof, this is scary. This is scary." So yeah, I think my hope is that producers and financiers and the studios will be nice and make sure that the people that have been riding with them for all these decades and hundreds of years and making creative stuff, actors, musicians, and the tech people, writers, tech people in visual effects and sound design. Hopefully, they will continue to honor that and move forward and work together to see how we can use AI rather
Yes.
than just replacing people.
Yeah. No, that would be the dream for sure.
Yeah, I hope that's the case. I don't think it will happen that way, but
Yeah.
that's my
Sadly,
hope. That's my hope.
sadly, it
History,
probably won't.
history is usually a pretty good guide when it
Yes.
comes to how technology can and will be used. So
Hmm. Continuing our discussion on AI, straight from the production office is Jordan Hunt.
Yeah, I definitely think there are areas in the production office that could probably benefit from AI. I also think that it's probably a different type of AI than we're hearing about in the news right now. Like generative AI seems to be the big thing right now, which it can generate text, it can generate emails for you, it can generate images and even movies. I think the thing that we need in the office is like a data entry AI. I can give a spreadsheet and say, can you transpose this into this PDF or vice versa? I think there's a lot of ways. And to be honest, computers already are helping us with our jobs enormously. I mean, spreadsheets are a huge part of my day-to-day job. And if I was still doing those on paper, it would take me hours longer. So I think there's a lot of areas in which technology as a whole is going to continue to improve and make our jobs a little easier. I think there's a lot of ways in which technology can help eliminate clerical errors and that sort of thing. At the end of the day, though, it's not a replacement for the personal connection. One thing that I realized is that I think often the hardest part of my job on a day-to-day basis is the personal relationships because dealing with numbers is easy, dealing with people is hard. And so over and over again, dealing with people on the crew. I'm dealing with cast members. I'm dealing with vendors and unions and studio executives. And those personal relationships are such a huge part of what I do. I don't think AI is going to be able to replace that. I do think that the technology is going to continue to improve to allow us to just do our job more efficiently and better. And ultimately, in a lot of the same ways as the production office frees up the producers to make bigger creative level decisions, I think the technology is going to free up us in the production office to be able to kind of tackle the bigger issues and not get bogged down in the minutia. So uh, I'm interested to see where it goes for sure. Even in the last like 5 or 6 years, there's new software, new programs that have come out to help with this sort of thing. So I don't know if it's AI specifically, but I do think that there's advancements on the horizon for sure. I don't know that I've necessarily seen a whole lot of them in my day to day yet. Um, to a certain extent, maybe this is my generation. I know there's a generation above us that still doesn't trust like GPSs. I I'll punch in Google and just go wherever it takes me. I have no problem trusting a GPS. I still have a lot of problems trusting AI for a lot of things. I feel like if I used a generative AI in any of my day to day, I would spend so much time double checking it and just general distrust that it wouldn't necessarily be helpful to me. But maybe there's another generation that's coming up under me that's going to be like, yeah, we just use AI for everything. So it's possible I could already be out of date. We'll see. We'll see what happens.
Next up, I'm pleased to welcome back director and producer Brett Varvel.
I think there are elements of AI that are really, really exciting for our industry. I was working with a friend of mine on a script recently, and it was in a very like infantile stage of the idea. And so we went to Chat GPT and we were just like, what are 5 names for, and we kind of wrote the character description that we could name this character. And we didn't end up using any of the names, but it generated an idea in our minds of like, oh, maybe we could use this name. I think things like that are very, very useful. I think that, when it comes to poster design, there and artwork in general, there's a lot of just generated imagery that can be produced really quickly that's very helpful, like filling in background or foreground elements that can be helpful to make the image fill out. And it saves a lot of time. That's really what this boils down to. Is I think the thing about AI is it just saves you a little bit of time. The thing I don't like about it is that it's going to make people lazy, and I can say that from like I saw this other piece of AI software that is um, it's a generator where you put in your script, you put in a synopsis, you put in you know a bunch of different parameters into the algorithm, and it will spit out storyboard images for each scene. It will spit out what the characters might look like visually,
Mm-hmm.
and it'll spit out all kinds of different things for you to use. And I was like, and it did it in 2 minutes. I was shocked at how fast it worked. And it was pretty crude in certain areas. Like, I mean, and this technology is only getting better. But man, I was just like, I was sitting there thinking like something that used to take me, weeks to do, did in 2 minutes. And I don't know how I feel about it because on one hand, it saved me a lot of time. On the other hand, I didn't make it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like I don't know if this is really honest art.
Yeah.
And so I think that there are elements about it that are useful for certain applications or certain moments. And we're definitely venturing into this world where people are going to be able to sit at home and make their own movies by just typing and saying in what they want to see. And that's all going to happen whether we want it to or not. However, I do think that there will always be a plastic, not real element to it
Mm-hmm.
that will require real artists to always be there. So I don't think that we're going to get run out of a job,
Yeah.
but um, I think it's just something that we have to embrace and get good with and use it in certain moments when it's going to help us. Um, but also it's going to take some discipline and for us to not be lazy. Because like, I mean, it was especially the storyboard at Element. I was like, that blew my mind. I mean, it was an animatic, like it had like this
Wow.
whole thing with music and it had this Ken Burns effect on each shot so that you could see like what it would do and what the characters were doing. You could even make the characters move if you wanted to. And it's just it on one hand it was so cool, but then it terrified me because I mean just how lazy we could get. Um,
Yes.
but I really do hold true to the idea that um, a trained eye will be able to look at that and be like, that's fake. I mean,
Hmm.
with all the fires that are going on in LA right now, I can't tell you how many uh, videos and pictures I've seen of the Hollywood sign on fire, and it's like it's not real.
Hmm.
But and some people just get caught up in it because they're lazy viewers and they don't think to even look at it closely. But if you look at it closely, you can tell it's not real.
Yeah,
Uh, so so anyway, yeah, I think that there are definitely going to be uses for it, but I do hope that people stick to the honesty of the art form. Um,
hmm,
yes, movies are one grand illusion. It's one grand magic trick. I understand that. But when the movies that I've gotten the most lost in is because they were so authentic and honest. And AI can't replace that.
for sure. And rounding out today's AI discussion, I'm pleased to welcome Chris June, one of the other producers on The Chosen and the other producing partner at Out of Order Studios.
AI is interesting. I don't think anybody really knows. There's a concept in visual effects and animation called real-time lighting, real-time rendering.
Mhm.
It was a term that we were chasing for a long, long time, right? It was always on the cusp, always on the cusp, and just and I think things have gotten better. I think we're finally there, but I'm talking for 15 years, this kind of holy grail of literally this idea of you moving a camera and the lighting kind of or moving the lights and everything would move interactively, right? And so AI to me is this kind of somewhat brand new technology that I think everybody has these notions of what they think it will be or they want it to be or what they're scared it will be, right?
Mhm.
Um, I kind of take a more, look, I can sit with one of the systems and do, the AI prompts trying to come up with character design. And the interesting thing is that I don't think AI is going to make a producer a character designer, right? Or at least definitely not in its current form. What I'm hoping happens is more that it makes the character designer a better character designer, right? And so the whole thing is it kind of like the computer helped us. I'm hopeful that take it. There's menial tasks that an artist would have to do that if they could do those tasks faster, right? I think that's where we are. Again, I don't think just like I don't think AI is necessarily going to replace the writer, right? I think it can help them. There's tools and stuff like that. My thing that I'm worried about with AI is that it's going to take. I heard somebody describe it the as the fast food type jobs, your low level jobs, right?
Mhm.
Logo design. Like eventually, you would hire a junior artist to go do a logo, right? And he would learn and he'd learn how to interact with people, and then maybe he moves on and gets another job. Or animators, they used to have there's like entry level animators versus your senior animators. I, I fear that the speed at which things are happening, the people who are really good at their craft are going to go faster, but then we're going to lose that training ground, right? So, if you think about legal documents, if a lawyer doesn't want to do some stuff, so they have an intern that helps them do some of this stuff. Well, now if AI helps them do that, then how do you train the young workforce? So I just hope we don't eliminate the training ground for people
Mhm.
because of some of this.
And with that, we're going to wrap up this episode of the Producer Podcast Highlights. Stay tuned for the return of season 10 of the show this fall as the journey to 100 episodes continues. Also, stay tuned for more Producer Podcast Highlights coming later this year. Until next time, make sure to subscribe, and thanks for listening.